Welcome back to this video tutorial series on the World Domination Custom Cabinetry app. Today we're going to talk about projects, and this is a 1 of 2, and there will be a 2 of 2 where we will dig a little deeper into this projects portion. But right now we just want to go over the fields that are part of projects. So with projects open and the navigation open, just so you know how that works, these little arrows, double arrows, will close the navigation. So if you click on it, it closes the navigation or detaches it, unpins it, and if I move my mouse away, it's gone, gives me the full screen. If I want to see the navigation, I can click on that and it will be here. I can't just roll over here unless I roll right to the edge, but then you can see the navigation. If I want to repin it, I've got to come back up here and click that to pin it open. So for the time being, for what we're going to be doing, I'm going to close that so we get all of the screen. And we're going to talk about the fields and the templates. So the fields are the name, so naming the job, and totally up to you what you name your job. And then you have your category, and your categories currently, the 4 categories we've put in here are residential new construction, residential remodel, commercial new construction, and commercial remodel. You can type anything you want in here, add any new fields, any new categories you want, just by typing in any word you want. And then if you choose this create, once you start typing up here, when you choose create, it will add it to that list. Once it adds it to the list, you can click back on the list and sort it by using the little hand icon over the 6 dots if you wanted it at the top. If you want to change the color of it, you click on the 3 dots to the right of it, and this is true of any select field. And if I wanted it to be green or orange or any of these different colors, I could do that. Or if I just want to delete it and get rid of it, which I do. And we will say this was what it was in the first place, residential new construction. Then we have a creation date, and I did want to point out here that this creation date is not a true creation date. This is simply a date field. So all of these headings across the top of the page that identify these columns are called properties, and you also see them listed here, and we'll look at that in just a second. But this property that I have named creation date is simply a date field. So a date field just simply gives you access. If I click on this, you get access to a calendar, and then you can choose a date. You could also type a date in this field. You can also, if you want to, add an end date. So you create a span of time, but you can also add a time. So typically on these type projects, we would never add a time. And I don't necessarily recommend, we have a timeline view, and we may go over that in these videos, but I think it complicates everything. We really want to know, when are we going to deliver these cabinets? And so we're basically looking or focusing at 2 dates. Creation date, that we're looking at here, and then delivery date will be the 2 dates you'll see throughout the program. You can change this any way you want, add anything you want to it, but the date field I'm using here is simply a date field. You also have the ability, and if you want to change this later, you can, but you have the ability, if you come here to the property where it says date, you see all the different property types, and I'll run down through these real quick. The text field is just typed text. Numbers are typically, and you can put numbers into a text field, but numbers are typically numbers where you're most likely wanting a $sign, but maybe a fraction. Maybe you're actually tracking the size of something like, and it won't be a fraction, it'll be a decimal. And then select fields are single select, so you can only select one of items in a list. Multi-select allows you to have the same type list, but you can select more than one or as many as you want. A date field, which is what we're using here, is just simply choosing a date, and if you want a time, and if you want a beginning and an end date. A person is actually using the login information. So if you have a team of people in your plant and you want to be able to sign a project or assign a portion of a project to someone, then you'll want to use this person field in here. Right now we're using participants as a link intentionally for the customer and for the builder or companies. We don't want to have to invite them in. We don't want it to be dependent on them being in the application for it to work. So for these 2 columns here that we'll go over in a few minutes, companies and contacts, we're just creating a database and we're putting them into the database and we're linking to that database. But then you have files and media, so that's anything, PDFs, pictures, anything that could be uploaded. You use this type of field to do that. Checkboxes are just that. It's a checkbox. So if you wanted to have a list and check it off as you go, and you'll see we use a lot of them in this app. And then we have URLs, and URLs simply format it so that if you clicked on it, it would take you to wherever that was if you had a URL in a field. Same thing with email, formats it. So if you type in an email address into the field and you click on that email address, it will take you to your email program. Phone numbers, if you have your computer set up, it could actually dial the phone numbers for you. But typically it's just for reference only. Then you have formula fields. We're not going to spend any time on that in this video, and possibly not in any of the videos. I don't know that that's relevant to you guys. I'm building these formulas for you that are needed, but maybe in some advanced one-on-ones, people might want to go over the formulas and how they work, but they're very powerful. Relationships are where we're tying the databases together. So both of these two columns, or these two properties, contacts, and this is also, when you see that arrow drawn, that's a relation. So we're linking to. So here we're linking to a company, here we're linking to a contact, and here we're linking to the rooms for this project. And then you have a roll-up, and we do use some roll-ups. There's one right there. If it has the, you can see here, it has the little magnifying glass to the left of it, and this field has a magnifying glass. So that's a roll-up. It's going and looking at another database, something we've linked to, and saying what is the total cabinet number, or what is the total job cost, those types of things. Then we have created time. This is the field that you could use for this creation date. If you wanted this to be a creation time, it would automatically populate this field when you create this new project. When you choose this new button here, or there's a new option at the bottom of the page, when you choose one of those two options, and if this field were a created time, it would put a time and date for when it was created. And if you add this field as a property, it would also, whoever's logged in, you would be listed as the creator of this project. And you can do the same thing for, you can add all four of these if you want to actually track who touched it last and who edited it. What was the last edit time and who was the person that edited it. So those are all the field types and why you might want to change this creation date later. The reason it's set to just a date right now is because I have a lot of the Good Profit Group members that want to recreate their last year, because this program is very valuable once you have a year in, or more valuable once you have a year of data in. You don't have to add everything, but if you add your projects, the sales, and a single overhead number and a total variable cost number to this program, it becomes very valuable on the financial side of the program. Then you have a status field, and the status is intended to be the project status. Is the house or building or project ready for cabinetry yet? If you look at the fields that are here, it's kind of the beginning stage to the end stage. I don't know that I would necessarily use complete. Ready is as far as I would typically go. If it's ready for cabinets, it's ready for cabinets. And I'm not saying by having this sequence of events, the things that might need to happen, that it's not ready until the finished floors are in. I'm saying that ready is one of the options. I personally preferred to give a span. So I told people we're willing to put cabinets in as early as the sheetrock's up, but then we're also willing to put them in after the floors are finished. If I gave them that span from any time from the time the sheetrock was up until the floors were finished, that gave me a bigger window of opportunity of being able to be on time. If I said I wanted to be in as soon as the sheetrock was up, then that's a single day typically, or maybe they'll say, you know, you got a week from the time the sheetrockers are finished, that sort of thing. But I want to have as big a span of time, so we would put cabinets in any of that range. But ready means whatever y'all have agreed to as a delivery time or window, that the project is at a state where you could bring cabinets and install them. And then companies, we've gone over that in an earlier video, but that's where you would store the information about your builders and contractors and remodelers. And then contacts could be people that work for that company, or be a homeowner, a building owner, a designer, an architect, anybody that you wanted to be able to tag to a job or link to a job and be able to contact quickly and easily, or people in the field to be able to get hold of those people using their cell phone or smartphone. Then we link to rooms, and the rooms typically, this is a one-to-many relationship, so typically a job is going to have more than one room. You can see that there are some. If I slid this over, you could see that most of them have more than one room. And then we have a win-loss ratio. And so I have not added but just one test real quick, so you see that all of these are one. But obviously you're not going to win every job. The objective being that we have a total here, so there's a total of 32. In this particular application, it's not very realistic at all. We have one loss out of 32. So if you have that win-loss relationship or that win-loss ratio of out of 32 projects, you win 31 of them, you need to raise your prices immediately. my personal preference is that if I'm winning 8 out of 10, I'm in the sweet spot. If I'm winning less than 8 out of 10, I need to evaluate either my pricing is too high, or I'm not doing a very good job in marketing and sales, or I'm not building the product that I should be building. The product is not satisfying the customers. If I'm winning 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, I need to raise my prices. So that's the point of tracking your win-loss ratio, is to kind of know when it's time to raise or lower your prices, or when to evaluate your own performance, whether your on-time deliveries are what's affecting that, and you have now got a reputation for being late on jobs, or your quality is suffering and you have a reputation for not having a high quality product, or you're just doing a bad job in marketing and sales, in business development in general. Then you have these two columns, total project cost. Now, right now, this is set at $1,086,000. This is for theoretically a year's worth of projects through here, as is this 1,024 cabinets. As you can see, some of these projects actually have job names, and they are actually real jobs that were produced by my cabinet company or a good friend of mine's cabinet company. Some of them are just hypothetical jobs. All these jobs that have test as the first part of the name are made up jobs, just to try to fill this calendar out so we can have the representative of a year's work, and each month being full of what we would like to see in the amount of work. So we have total project cost and total cabinet quantity, and it actually totals it up, and you don't even have to scroll to the bottom. That just floats at the bottom telling you the total count. We had 32 jobs, we won 31 of them. We did 1,086,554.24. We had 1,024 cabinets. That's the type of information that is in this portion of this program. Now, there's another important part before we go to the second version of this. We also want to talk a little bit about templates. So templates can be accessed from this new button, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second, but I'm not going to do this other one. I just want to show you. It's also down here at the bottom of the list. So if you were already at the bottom of the list and you just wanted to add a new project, you could just click the new, and it would do the same thing as if we come over here and click this new button. So when we click this new button, we haven't loaded the template yet. We've basically said, hey, I want to load an empty project, but we can. The templates are always down here at the bottom. So what we did by clicking new is we did this. We loaded an empty page, and we have an empty page. So it's not got a name. This project has no name. None of these things are filled in. And that's not an ideal way to create a project. So I'm going to delete this project. I don't want it. And I'm going to come up here and choose this down caret to the right of it, and now I actually see my template. So instead of loading an empty page, I can actually load the template page. And so by loading the template page, I actually get all of the information I want. It's a lot more than this. We'll see that in just a second. But also I have a couple options. I can move them, reorder them with the hand over the 6 dots, move them up and down with the 6 dots if I wanted to. But I also can edit them. And so just so you can get a peek at what the template is, I'm going to open this up, and you can see that it says edit, or my options when I float over it tells me that they're edit, duplicate, and delete. But we're going to edit it. And so now we don't want to do anything to this because it's a template except something that we would want to be in every one. So this is a blank slate that has all the information that we want to enter later into this project. And so the name of this template is New Project Template with Costs. And so as we scroll down, you'll see that this includes a ballpark estimate, an estimate, and a proposal. The other template that we see over here, New Project Template Without Costs, would not include those cost portions. So that might be when you're working for a builder or a remodeler that is marking up your costs and you want to invite the homeowner into this page. And there's really good reasons to do that, and we'll cover that portion in the second video of why you would want to do that. And so for this one, I'm just going to cover, so these are the fields we just covered a moment ago in a list format rather than that grid view that we saw back here in the background. But then this is what the template produces. So and I'm just going to tell you what each of these areas are. I'm not going to talk extensively about them. I'm going to do that in the next video. But this is the table of contents. So the table of contents is something you create, and I will show you in later videos how you actually do that. But it is something you create. It's one of the features, just like a header. It's the exact same thing. But now what it is actually doing is tracking headers. And so you see job site address, job site address. If we scroll down just enough to see the first step, step 1, all it is doing is putting those headers. So if I wanted to go to the very bottom of the page, you can see where I'm at here in the scroll bar. If I click on images, takes me all the way to the bottom of this page, almost to the bottom anyway, and it takes it as an open page too, which is nice. I've got the full page to look at now. So it took me to this last item, images, in that list. To get back to the top, I got to scroll all the way back to the top, but I can jump to the bottom with this particular feature. It allows me to jump to the bottom. So table of contents, there's also this add comments at the very top, just under our list view, and in here you can actually tag your customers. So if you invited them into this project, you can tag them here and have a conversation with them. Hey, did you pick out your pool yet? Have you found the refrigerator specs yet? That kind of thing. Have a conversation. But you can get really specific with that and actually do that at the appliance portion of it rather than asking it here. So this is like general questions, but I'll show you in just a second that we can actually get really specific with our comments. Then we have a job site address. If you will copy in the URL from address, so if I went to Google Maps and found an address and I copied this URL, I've typed the address in over here and I found the address, and I just highlight the URL up here. If I came in here, now this is my template so I don't want to do it, but you just click in here and paste that URL in there, that map will show up there and people will have access to that map from a smartphone, a tablet, or a computer. So even your installers, the guy going out to field measure, the guy going to double check the field measurements, anybody that needs to go to the job site for any reason would be able to get to that information from a tablet, a smartphone, anywhere that they had access to this app. Then below that, we've got a section here, we provide a ballpark estimate. Does our cabinetry fit your budget? So the message from here on out is to the user, builder, homeowner, anyone who would purchase cabinetry from you. The message we're trying to provide to the owner is the ball is in your court. So you see here in step 1 that the font is blue. And on step 2, the font is red. And included in all of the red font items, which is directed to the owner or the decision maker, you see this basketball. And the reason I used a basketball is objective is to communicate the message that the ball is in your court. And since basketball is played on a court, I used a basketball. You could change this icon to any ball you want. If you want to have a ball in there, you could put a monkey on your back if you wanted to. Whatever symbology would represent the message you're trying to send. So here we're saying that we're going to provide you with a ballpark estimate. That's step 1. And then step 2 is we're expecting something from you. We need to have a meeting at our facility to make the selections that would determine the true cost of this project. So this is not a true cost. This is a ballpark estimate based on your past history, not on their selections, to see if they can afford your cabinetry. This second step is all about getting the information you need to produce a formal estimate. So the objective is to get a meeting scheduled to be able to make those selections. Also in this second step, or an extension of this second step being the third step, you need the appliance specifications. And so the client needs to do both of these things. They need to provide you with the selections to produce your estimate and get you the appliance specifications. Now I wouldn't stop moving on into step 4 because I don't have appliance specifications, but I can't produce the formal estimate until I have step 2 completed. And so the ball's in their court to get you the answers for the selections, whether that's a meeting at their house or a meeting in your showroom. And then the next step is we need to get these appliance specifications. Ideally, both of these happen at once, but if you only get this, you can move on to step 4, which is to provide them with that formal estimate and whatever you use there. This program doesn't attach to any other program. Some people are under the misguided impression that the World Domination Custom Cabinetry app is actually connected in some way to Custom Cabinet Estimator, and it's not. It's just a place to collect it. So this portion of the program here is just a way to collect this interior material, exterior material, edge band, the things we used to write down on a paper form to enter into Custom Cabinet Estimator, we would now collect here on our cell phone in the showroom or at the customer's home or at the job site, wherever the location happens to be, that we're collecting that information. Ideally, it's in the showroom so they can see the doors and they can see the profiles and they can see the moldings. That would be my preference. That's what I would push for, is that this meeting happen at our facility. Again, these specifications are going to be important when you get to the design process. You can't really design a kitchen without the appliance specifications. So if appliances are involved, this is just as important. But then we're going to produce that formal estimate, whether we're going to do that with our design software or some estimating software or a spreadsheet, or you're using linear footage method, whatever. We need to produce this formal estimate to provide them with. Once we've provided them with the formal estimate, then we move to step 5, which is we need to get that signed and a check for a design fee if you collect that. You can change these words. This is just typed text. Every single one of these steps could be changed here in the template, so you never have to change it again if it's applicable to you. You could have 4 or 5 or 6 of these if you needed to have different words in them. You can have as many templates as you want. You duplicate one, edit it, save that, and then you've got a second template that maybe doesn't collect a design fee. If you have different terms and conditions depending on who you're dealing with, a builder versus a homeowner directly or something like that. But this is just a step-by-step process, so the ball is in their court until we get a signed copy of the estimate and then a check for the design fee if we do collect one. And then step 6 is we field measure for cabinetry. So the ball's in our court at this point. The font is blue, and we need to schedule a site visit so we can go out and field measure. Now if it's new construction, obviously we don't have to schedule that, but if it's remodel, we might have to schedule that. And then step 7 is we'll design your cabinetry and provide drawings. So at step 7 is balls in our court. We're creating this design. We've gone out, we field measured. We're going to draw up your cabinetry for all the rooms we're going to provide cabinetry for. And then step 7 is the ball's back in your court. We've done that, and now we need to either meet to do that, or we need to have an online meeting. Somehow we need to review those drawings and make sure that they're applicable, and maybe there's several steps here. So you could have sub-steps, or you could have more steps if you needed to. Maybe you have a design meeting and then you go back for a design review. Whatever your steps are, you can add them in here easy enough. This is just typed text all the way through. And then we would provide them with a proposal. Again, the ball's back in our court. And then we would go to this ball's in your court, step 10. We've provided you with this proposal, and now we need to get a signed copy of that proposal, our legal document, our contract that we're going to do the work for you. And we might need to get a 50% deposit or a 20% deposit or a 10% deposit, some sort of deposit. You may not if you give your builders terms or you give people terms. But whatever you need at this step, you'd want to have it defined here. Then step 11 is if you want to, as the owner or the builder or architect, anybody that's participating in the project, if they want to, they can follow along. And this right now is filtered, so they will only see their project, even though you got projects all through these sequence of events that happen. So step 1 would be ballpark estimate, then selections, and then estimate, and field measure, design, and we'll go over all of that in another video. But you see proposal, engineering, machining, assembly, finish, hardware, delivery, installation, and complete. And this check for field measure needs to be moved over into the right place. But this sequence of events, the events that happen through your manufacturing process, can be anything you want them to be. These are just typed words like they are everywhere else. And just like this check field measurement was created at a later time. But if you need to move one, you can see that I can just slide this left to right. So let's say I had just added this one, and I want this check field measure to be right after the design. So after I design it, so I went out, I field measured it, then I designed it, drew it in my design software, and then I want to take those drawings out and double check those field measurements. So you can add as many of those as you want, and it's just typed text, and it's just literally sliding over here to the right, and where it says add new group, click on that, type your word in, and then slide it into the position you want. And then this last one is images. You can use it if you want to. You don't have to use this, but this is in the template. So the images, once you're into the job, would be filtered for that job. And if you had taken pictures and you'd attributed them to one of these group types, so this is before pictures, you've gone and took pictures before you did any work, maybe with the old cabinets in the room. And if it's new construction, you wouldn't have anything there, or you might have some job site pictures possibly. And then the machining. If you want to keep the customer updated, this is a place to do that. So you could take a couple pictures when you started machining and tag them in a comment and say, hey, we started machining your job today. If you choose to do that, I recommend you do that around lunchtime. That's the best time to send pictures to people, because they'll show them to people they're having lunch with. Whether that's a coworker or a peer or a family member, that could behoove you to have them showing people pictures of, hey, look, they're machining my job now. Then assembly, whenever that process happens, take a few pictures and tag them and say, hey, we're starting the assembly process again at lunchtime. Same thing at finish process. And you can use some of these or all of these at hardware, at installation. At installation, I personally wore that out. I really took a lot of pictures the day of installation, and not just at lunchtime. I would post pictures mid-morning, post pictures at lunchtime, and post pictures at mid-afternoon, and then I would post pictures at the end of the day, especially if it was a single day install, like, showing the whole process from the empty room with hanging rail on the wall all the way through that all the cabinets are complete. And then after complete, and this is a good place to store those pictures, being able to find them quickly, single source of truth, where when you do your social media later, you can come in here and grab these for this job, and any of these all the way through this process. So this is a very intelligent way to store your photos for your projects so that you can get to them, because they're project specific. Even though they're being stored in a central database and they're all together, in reality, Here you'll be able to view them and download them for use in other applications from a single source. And so that is the template and how the template works. And again, you can have as many of them as you want. And we will start looking at the details of all of these things that we kind of glanced through, talking about these one at a time in the second video. And then we'll even dive deeper into the individual items of those in another video specific to each of those items. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope to see you on the next video.